If you want me to play a role that is positive, include me in the execution of the government programs. Include me. If you include me, it will be automatic. I remember one time. Let me give you.
It can't be automatic.
Let me give you one. Let me give you one example. Let me give you one example.
Government of
that's why I'm coming.
Yeah.
That's why I'm coming.
Yeah.
I'm one guy who was very aggressive against Mugabe.
Yeah.
And ZANU-PF in its program, very aggressive.
Yeah.
And I met the consequences of migration, arrests, torture, everything happened to me. But when I was appointed to be a deputy minister of transport, and was getting involved in the government programs, it became very difficult for me to ever raise my hand to say Mugabe Mudenga, Grace Mudenga, Batanizai, Ezoko Buga, because I wanted to make my ministry succeed. I wanted to put a mark, a positive mark on the government program, because I took ownership and responsibility and accountable to the success of my ministry.
What successes did we register during your time as a deputy minister in the transport?
Yes, of course. I was very interested in the road construction. Remember the plum tree to Mtare Road. I was very interested. I was always moving around, trying to check. And I was able to meet with even other many, wana PTC, wana Net One, and so forth, PRAS and so forth. I wanted to put my input into there. So, if you look at me as individual, but collectively as MDC, the economy changed. Remember the mantra, $2 for $2 mantra, which was attributed to Morgan Tsvangirai.
Yeah.
Remember the stability of the economy.
Though economists actually are saying this is where we lost it by bringing in the US dollar, and it really dealt a serious dent on the economy. Actually, because the cost of production was too high, we could not compete with regional peers.
I do agree with you.
Yeah.
But remember, the ZANU-PF side was not honest. It was not playing the ball.
This is where I wanted us to come.
They wanted, like they were not moving along with the MDC ministers. They were actually behind, trying to play judo on the MDC ministers. The MDC ministers were really committed to the economic growth, because that was one of their key objectives of getting into the GNU, to stabilize the economy, to make sure that the people of Zimbabwe would at least have a relief from the painful days of the 2007 and 2008. So we wanted to make sure that there was this peaceful environment. So yet ZANU-PF vanga vakawandira, and they were vakawandira vakatamira election year 2013. So they had an evil intention. But if we are to go there in the government of national unity, suppose we go today with positive minds, from both sides. Now ZANU-PF has realized one thing: they cannot go into loop after although people can complain about the GNU period, but look at the economic graph of our country. It is from 1990 to today, it is flat, but when it came to 2009, it rose like this. There was economic growth, and it maintained for a period of GNU. In 2014, it collapsed. Until today, it's collapsing further, which means the GNU, if it was done deliberately, constitutionally, and if it was done with
5% growth.
Yes, of course, but it was 10, 11 by the GNU period. And the +5 growth is coming from the negative, from the bottom of the pit. If someone is settled on a scale at -20, if he moves from -20 to -15, if you calculate it, it will be 20%. So it's not growth, it's negative growth. It's negative growth. It's growth in the negative domain. And we cannot celebrate. Currently, if you look at the economy of Zimbabwe today, would you really be happy as a Zimbabwean if you know that a civil servant, a teacher, earns 45,000 RTGS today? So their salaries are 45,000. With our black market rate today, which is 1,000, so a teacher earns $45. and you are a minister, and you are proud, and you are a government, and you are proud. It's pathetic. It's not acceptable. It's dehumanizing. And we are saying the economy is not growing inclusively. The people are not benefiting out of the growth. It is growing from the negative, from the bottom of the pit. So it's not celebratable now if we still have years to come. But we, as Africans, this is our 42 years of independence. Yeah. We can be proud of that economic growth. We can't be proud of, we could do better, in my view, if we are to work not as if we are to exist in Zimbabwe, not as enemies. If we are not playing processes and elections, I am an enemy of this process because we don't understand it the way I would want. I want election process to be used to only elect a leader. Yeah. When you elect a leader, you need to introduce a governing system which is inclusive in nature, which locks in the interested parties towards that. After election, we are positive, all of us, towards economic growth. We don't want to leave anyone outside. We would put the motion of the economic growth into the reverse gear. So the governance system that we have learned, which we need to constitutionalize, put it in our laws in Zimbabwe and Africa at large, is that let's go for the election. Whoever wins and is a partner in the cabinet must be included. In the parliament must be included in the cabinet. This is what Rwanda has done. If you go back to Rwanda, you see the president of Rwanda does not run the cabinet from his own party alone. In his cabinet, even the presidium is inclusive of the opposition leaders. And what is happening in Rwanda? There's economic growth. We are all happy. We are all saying Rwanda is number one. Rwanda is number one. It is simply because after every election, there is no opposition party who travels to Britain. There's no opposition party who travels to America.
Someone was telling me that people actually and politicians decide to ignore the ills that are happening in Rwanda, where opposition political parties are arrested and incarcerated.
Yes, of course.
For campaigning.
Yes, of course. I don't like that, and I condemn that side of intolerance. We must tolerate each other. We must tolerate. But what I'm talking positively about here is the economic side. When the Rwandese themselves, after every election, they focus on developing their own economy. But yes, of course, this is the negative side, which we must all condemn. If we are to embrace democracy, we must embrace it in full. When any local person decides to raise his issues in opposition to what you are doing, accept it, tolerate it, allow him or her to compete on the election field. Allow the fourth state, which is the civil society organizations, to play their role. I understand the civil organizations in Rwanda have no space. Their space is democratic space is actually thwarted. Let's not do that. Let's not do that. The civil society organizations will never remove the government.
Okay,
they will never.
So you clearly are against the system that we have, the electoral system that we have, the winner takes all. But this is a constitutional animal, of course.
Yes, of course.
I know that you were part of the constitution making in 2018. Why didn't you speak against these things then?
No, that was a compromise document. Remember, the Constitution of Zimbabwe in 2012, 2013 was a negotiated document. Remember, they were negotiating teams from. So there are a lot of things which ZANU-PF have compromised in that, which they didn't want at all. And there were also a lot of things that in that constitution that we didn't also want. So, but for the sake of unity and purpose of progress, and at least for the Zimbabweans to have a better document, we tried our best. Remember, the document was actually as a result of research from various constitutions. The Kenyan constitution played a key element there. The Namibia and so many, the American constitution, we also looked into that. So there was a bit of, there was some quite significant amount of compromise that was in the document. But after that, I am giving the responsibility to the Zimbabwean people to take that as the basis of the growth of their democracy. And, they must then model it around the African philosophy, the Zimbabwean philosophy. This is where I want people to start thinking. And I'm not talking to Zimbabweans alone. I'm talking to the entire African continent.
Yeah.
I see economic growth of Africa if we have our own systems. I believe in that. And let me give you an example. If today President Mnangagwa and the oppositions in parliament would come and form a government of national unity today, I can assure you the economy will grow. Because the negatives would be removed. The fact that we will be united as a nation. No, why would America sanction us? On whose behalf? Why would the British sanction us? On whose behalf?
But they would continue to extend these sanctions.
Yes, of course, because of the civil war that's taking place in us. But there's a side which they sympathize with. There's a side which they think they are the victims of the current government which is there. But if we unite, that victim mentality or the victim perception would disappear. If we unite. So with me, I would endorse the government of national unity tomorrow in Zimbabwe. Yes, tomorrow. And they start developing our own systems. And this government of national unity must be inclusive in nature. It must be developed by the stakeholders, by political parties, by churches, by traditional leaders, by business in whatever community, civil society. Yeah. They must be brought to this house, to this whatever passport type of a thing, and start developing a local system which is homegrown. Because let me tell you the election day of next year, the outcome. Yeah. I know it.
Oh, you know the outcome?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Let's hear it.
It's the waste of time.
That's the outcome.
It's the waste of time. That's the outcome. It's the waste of time. But the consequences are dire.
Yeah.
That is where I'm coming from. The consequences are dire. Again, we will be divided with this winner-take-all principle. Other people will fall in the hands of the West, and the people will fall in the hands of the East. And whatever achievement they are trying to so far, up to 2023, it will be reversed.
But why is it difficult for opposition political parties or those who would have lost to accept that we have lost? Let's come together and move forward. For instance, 2018, right? 2018, President Mnangagwa wins the elections, and he then says, okay, all political actors, let's come together, let's talk, let's be on the round table. Let's discuss Zimbabwean issues. And some opposition political parties decide that, no, we can't do that.
Anyway,
is that not so?
That's at least the beginning, but it's not enough. I said the solution is we should include the people that have won parliamentary seats into the formation of the cabinet, because that's where the government is run. If you keep them outside, they would sabotage. That's why the principle of integration should be promoted. And let us be practical as leaders as well. We go for an election not to be enemies. No, we go to election to elect a leader to fulfill the constitutional democracy that we have embraced in our own country. It's not a war, it, but it must be practical in our implementation, so that we don't create vacuum in other people's minds or feel disadvantaged or rejected or left out. Let us give the confidence to the participators and actors. So, kana munhu achieve a parliamentary seat, give him the executive position in the cabinet, so that he or she would contribute positively to the growth of the economy. Ngatimbotorai for an example. If Zimbabwe would do that, and Mozambique would do that, South Africa would do that, Zambia would do that, Botswana would do that, Angola would do that. Don't you? Let me give you an example, a practical example which I shed tears when I think about it. The Logado investment that it almost brought there by the Total, more than 64 billion worth of investment was put into fire by the Islamic whatever terrorists in there. Who lost? It is news. President News lost. The Mozambicans lost. SADC lost out of that investment. And there's creation of violence in that area. There's no peace in that area. Lives have been lost. But if the Mozambican government or constitution would recommend the government of national unity, the guys that are responsible for that insurgents would not do it, because they will feel responsible and accountable to the economic growth of their own country, peace, protection, order in their own country. You lose nothing by involving them in governing system. Because don't be greedy, don't be selfish, don't take the responsibility to run a country as a personal responsibility or a personal property. It's a national issue, and if it's a national issue, include everyone who qualifies. A certain threshold and criteria should be used to develop a governing system that is inclusive. So to me, if Africa would do that from Cape Town to Tunisia, to Algeria, we would not be abused by the Western world. We would not be abused by the Eastern world. We would be independent in Zimbabwe. So whenever the British are coming to Zimbabwe, we'll all turn on the same table against them, and we'll strike a deal that is positive for Zimbabwe. When the Chinese come, we also turn together as a family, and we negotiate with the Chinese, and we strike a deal for the Zimbabwe. The benefit, the people that would benefit are the Zimbabweans, African economies, the African continent. We are failing to convert the natural resources that we have in Africa because of the governance system we are using, because of the winner-take-all principle we are using. We are being totambwa now, nema big brains in my Western world. I'm against that.
I wanted to, so that we move on to the next item, for the purposes of clarity, if one would say, Senator Komichi, what is your preferred governance system, just in a nutshell?
My preferred governance system is government of national unity, which includes all actors that have gone for an election and have acquired parliamentary seats. So those people must be appointed into cabinet posts by the president who will have won, so that whenever so that we move away from the political contestation to the economic development. We focus all political parties to the economic growth of our own country. We need to move away from the political fight to the economic growth. Because if you exclude these people, you will be going with the agenda of the economic growth. You will continue with the political contestation. So when you go to disturb, but even your budget, you would put up a budget to protect yourself, power retention agenda. You will put more money towards power retention instead of putting more money towards economic development in your own country. Because peace is synonymous to economic growth. Peace is required. Unity is synonymous with economic growth. Unity. We must fight for the national unity. In national unity. And national unity is brought by this attitude and this spirit of just be like, whenever we win election, be the mother and the father of all. So my appeal to Comrade Ruto right now, reach out to Raila Odinga, reach out to other political parties that have won and form a government of national unity, so that it will be easy for you to run the government agenda. Don't be like a man who digs a mountain with pick and shovel when dynamites are there. Unity, peace are the dynamites to deal with big mountains.